So, this video is probably coming out a lot sooner than some of you were expecting, since I said to not really expect it anytime soon in the H0ES video. But in all honesty, it's just like I said in that video, I did not know how I was going to handle the making of this video. At first I wanted to do another hour-long series retrospective, kind of like the Pokemon Ranger video, but after having all those issues trying to make that H0ES video, I decided I didn't want to do another hour-long video so soon after. But the issue with that was, I really wanted to make a Fossil Fighters video this year. So I compromised and decided to make 3 separate videos on the 3 Fossil Fighters games, instead of doing just one big video. However, I think I'll probably edit these 3 videos together at some point in the future, similar to what other creators do from time to time. A part of me isn't really satisfied with this compromise, since if I might edit them together anyways, why not just do that from the beginning? But meh, my intrusive feelings are usually wrong most of the time, so I'm just gonna ignore them. And besides, I think I'll have a lot more to say than I did in that Ranger video, so it's probably gonna be easier, and just for the better in general, to make 3 separate videos, then sort of Frankenstein them together. But let's get on topic, shall we? Fossil Fighters, a series that was primarily developed by Red Entertainment and Nintendo, that released its first entry on the DS in Japan in 2008, and 2009 in North America and Australia. Fossil Fighters is a monster taming RPG that has the player dig up fossils to revive them into BEF0REs. Basically modified ancient creatures that can have different abilities and skills in combat that are contained in little dino medals or dino gears in the 3rd game. BEF0REs are used by people known as Fossil Fighters to do battle. As a Fossil Fighter, your goal is usually to become the strongest Fossil Fighter by digging up more and more fossils to collect and upgrade BEF0REs, while dealing with some sort of evil plot done by some sort of evil group. Fossil Fighters as a series enjoyed a fairly average amount of success and it earned a very loyal fan base, but in modern day it's not really all that talked about unless a new game is rumored in some kind of E3 or Direct leak, or if a popular YouTuber does a video on it. Sadly, Fossil Fighters is in the same situation as many other popular C-tier Nintendo franchises that only really get the bare minimum of love or acknowledgement from the big guys at Nintendo. Not helping Fossil Fighters' case is the fact many people compared it to Pokemon, saying it's not really on Pokemon's level, which I think is a terrible assumption, but not entirely unfair. Comparing Nintendo's 2 monster taming franchises is just a natural thing to do, and although Fossil Fighters does have its toes in other media like manga, Pokemon being the juggernaut that it is just completely flattened it. And when the final game in the series, Frontier, came out and was very controversial with fans and critics, yeah, Fossil Fighters never really came back from that. However, nowadays with monster taming games other than Pokemon reaching unprecedented levels of popularity, and the fact that Nintendo remade Advance Wars in a time where Fire Emblem has that genre on lockdown, I think the possibility of a comeback for Fossil Fighters is, pretty high. I don't think I'd put money on that though, or the reliable leakers that promise it's going to be in the next Direct, but I think it has a pretty good shot. But now that you got the context around Fossil Fighters as a series, let's get started talking about the games, or I guess game, since this is a separate video, unless you're watching this in the future combined video. Man, I hate myself sometimes. Let's just get started. As mentioned before, Fossil Fighters 1 came out in 2008/2009 and started the C-tier Nintendo franchise. Fossil Fighters 1 has us play as a rookie Fossil Fighter on BEF0RE Island, who has to deal with threats to the world whether they be terrestrial or extra, as he builds his career and ranks up to become a master fighter. One of the first things you'll notice as you boot up this game is that Fossil Fighters decides to go the full 3D route with its visuals, which helps set itself apart from other RPGs on the DS. And that definitely shows in the BEF0RE fights, though the models and animations can look a bit stilted at first. I mean, just look at this poor guy run. But there is a reason I want to start on the visuals, as I think they are very interesting and work a lot better than they first appear. Starting with the overworld, the environments are all pretty cool and interesting, but when you get to the player and NPC models, they are very low poly and their animations are very stilted, most likely from what I believe to be a lack of development time. However, even if everything looks stilted, the animators do get really creative with what they're given. Yeah, it's not the most fluid dance in the world, but don't tell me you don't enjoy watching these characters do their ridiculous moves or just spin around and flop onto the floor. They get so creative with their own limitations, and they still make these characters feel so lifelike. They go this very cartoony route, and it's just so enjoyable watching your characters move and emote when it's still very clear how restricted it must have been to make them feel this expressive. Whether they're dancing, crying, or packing 8, they just feel so lifelike. I know I repeated myself 8 times, but it's so cool, you gotta believe me. Then we get to the Vivosaurs in battle. I think they share some of that stilted feeling from the overworld models, but you can definitely tell that this is where the animators spent most of their time, as all the animations are so well done and even have some cartoony movements and some of that squash and stretch to them, which makes them so fun to watch in action. A possible negative is how the animations are for the most part shared between Vivosaurs with the same base model. But you gotta remember, this is an RPG on the DS with over 100 controllable dinosaurs. So yeah, I can absolutely understand why they would have it like this, and just change a particle effect here or there, like if it's a fire or a water elemental or something. One thing I noticed that was a really cool way to save on DS memory is how most of the attacks are technically just one long animation, and depending on the power of the attack, the animation will cut off at certain points. For example, let's look at how Patchy attacks. Comparing these two attacks, we can see that they're the same animation, it's just the weaker one is cut off while the stronger one plays more of the animation. That's really cool. I love that level of ingenuity. It's just a very creative way to handle something like this, and it just speaks to the level of creativity the team had for Fossil Fighters. Creativity, that's just the perfect word for this game. Look at all these cool creative designs for not just the variety of Vivosaurs you get to use in battle, but for most of the characters you get to meet as well. The design work in this game is fantastic. Each of the characters have their own unique look that tells you a little bit about their personality, and the Vivosaurs take so much care and effort to look like these cool cartoony versions of dinosaurs, with some obvious creative liberties here and there to make them feel more unique, such as Krona's time theme being based on its Roman naming meaning time lizard. That's just plain creative, man, and just about each Vivosaur has that same amount of care and love put into their design. And it doesn't stop there. We'll get to the story in a bit, but let me just talk about this writing. It has no business being as good as it is. Like, maybe the story isn't the best thing you'll ever read, but the way it's delivered has all the trappings of Bugs Bunny and Drama Club. The way everyone is talking and joking around is just fantastic. There will be a character in each and every chapter that will absolutely fascinate you with their delivery and their wit. For instance, this dimwit, Knick-Knack, and his obsession with weird items, funky speech patterns, and his absolute jam of a theme song. Exquisite. You gotta love everybody in this game. There's hardly a one without a neat detail or gimmick that just makes it feel like they've all been painstakingly written to entertain. And I think I'll leave it there, as I don't want to spoil the game too much for you. That's why I'm putting the story towards the later part of this video. I want to genuinely direct people towards these games without ruining the fun, while still giving my thoughts for those who want to hear another perspective on the spoilers. But what's a game without gameplay? Oh, a movie!
No, it's a book!
It's a spatula!
Sony?
That was rhetorical, but yes to all four. In Fossil Fighters, you can do a variety of fossil-related things, such as polluting the planet, such as using your trusty pickaxe and sonar to dig a 2-foot hole in the ground and finding a fossil, then bringing that bad boy back to the lab to do a little deep clean, with a drill for precise cleaning and the hammer to actually get things clean. Personally, I feel like the hammer is the perfect tool. I mean, honestly, when you can get away with it, it just gets everything cleaner, it's a lot faster, it's a lot stronger, it's a lot oops. Yeah, just be careful when cleaning not to damage it too much, as it makes the fossil unrevivable. You can check the status of the fossil by looking up top. Cleaning is represented with the blue bar and the damage is shown with the red bar. To revive a fossil, the blue has to make it over the line right here, with every bit of blue afterwards going into the revived Vivosaur as bonus experience points. However, if the red gets over the bar, you've lost the fossil, but that's not all you gotta watch out for, as there is a time limit. For some reason, there's not really a line here, Doc. I think I can get away with taking my time on these extremely valuable, priceless fossils, But if you're not satisfied with the base equipment of your fossil fighter, you can upgrade your sonar, fossil inventory, and cleaning gear for a small— What the hell? Why is everything an arm and a leg here? How loaded do you have to be to get in this Jurassic Park BS island? If you want my recommendation, just focus on fossil chip upgrades, as they're the ones you really need to find more fossils. And maybe go for inventory if money's burning a hole in your pocket. Everything else either skip or upgrade if you need to, or if you're getting one too many normal rocks out there. And don't bother with the higher level cleaning equipment unless you absolutely need to, which most of you probably won't, since these things aren't that much of an upgrade, to be honest. But how does one go about obtaining money in fossil fighters? Well, when digging, you'll come across some rocks with even more expensive rocks hidden inside them, which is how you'll get most of your funds, but there are other ways. Just don't expect to get a lot of money out of those dung fossils. Ugh. I mean, if you clean a bunch of them, you can get a poop hat. I didn't really bother with that, but you know, you're into that. But hey, for the most part, I really enjoy the digging and cleaning aspects of fossil fighters. It's a really creative use of the DS touchscreen, and I appreciate when a DS game uses the touchscreen for a creative use. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind a map or status screen, but some DS games just didn't really understand how to use the touchscreen effectively, or they just did something that was interesting, but could have been done more effectively with a D-pad and buttons. Oh, by the way, you don't have to blow on the mic to clean up the fossil dust on the screen. Blowing is a lot more immersive, stop it, but you can just use your hammer on the table to knock away the dust, or press L and R to instantly clean it instead of blowing it. Hey! This is a mature video about a kid's game. Have some respect. Now, for the main gameplay we're all here for.
Violent, passionate hip shaking!
Nah, it's fossil battles, but the dialogue for the hip shaking is a bit, yeah. When they say E for everyone, they really meant E for everyone. Ain't no way a kid is getting these jokes, man. They gotta throw a parent a bone every once in a while. Kinda reminds me when I was a kid and I'd have someone read to me the dialogue for Pokemon or something. And now all I can imagine is a kid going, "Ooh, Papa, you read the funny dinosaur words for me?"
Why, certainly, my boy. Let me just take a look-see.
Don't let your kids watch it!
Anyways, the main gameplay I meant was the fossil battles. Fossil battles are a 3v3 turn-based battle system that involves us using our Venusaurs to try and beat our opponents. And I think it's time to go deeper into our prehistoric companions. Venusaurs will all have an elemental typing based on 6 types: Earth, Air, Water, Neutral, and Legendary. Earth, Air, Water, and Fire are weak and strong against each other, best explained by this clockwise chart here. You're most likely familiar with elemental-based strength and weakness type systems, and Fossil Fighters is probably the most simplistic, so you'll catch on quick with this one. And if you don't, the battle UI will tell you if a Venusaur is strong or weak against another. But what about Neutral and Legendary? Well, Neutral is self-explanatory. It's neutral, not strong or weak against any other type. And Legendary is just neutral with sunglasses. They're the exact same type with only a color change. Like I said, the type system is pretty simple, and you know, that's by design, as Fossil Fighters puts more strategic stock in the individual quirks of each Venusaur. There are different stats, different staff buffs or debuffs that they can put on either your or the opponent's Venusaur, and where the Venusaur likes to be positioned on the field. In Fossil Fighters, you can have a team of 5 Venusaurs, but you're only allowed to bring 3 into battle, with those 3 being positioned on the different zones on the field. The attack zone, 2 support zones, and the escape zone. The Venusaur in the attack zone is right up front and can attack the 3 opposing Venusaurs, but can also be attacked by all 3 opposing Venusaurs as well. Oh, and keep in mind that attacks towards the support zones won't hit as hard as attacks towards the attack zone. The support zones are off to the side of the attack zone and can offer up that Venusaur's unique support effects to either boost or weaken the Venusaurs on the field. That all depends on the specific effects. Pay attention to those, by the way, as they can be massively helpful or massively hurtful to your team depending on the Venusaur. The support zone Venusaur may also attack the opposing attack zone Venusaur, though the attack won't hit as hard. And they can't attack the opposing support zone Venusaurs at all. The escape zone is where you can retreat your current attack zone Venusaur to keep it from sustaining any more damage. However, it can't attack or perform any skills from this zone, and it must wait a few turns before being brought back into the fight. Though keep in mind, you always have a Venusaur in the attack zone. So if you retreat your AZ into the EZ, then your top SZ will take the place of your AZ. Then when your EZ Venusaur comes back to fight, it will take the spot of your top SZ. Since you can only have one Venusaur in a zone at a time, you dig? Now each Venusaur has a preference as to which zone they like to inhabit on the field. You see, attack type Venusaurs like to be up close and personal, so obviously they're perfect in the attack zone. Support type Venusaurs are perfect for the support zone. Long range are actually pretty interesting as they don't lose any attack power when attacking in the support zone, nor do they lose any power when attacking the support zones in the attack zone. Though they can't hit the opposing attack zone as hard since it's too close. Defensive types are great sturdy walls, and transformation type is unique to only 2 Venusaurs that have the ability to transform into another Venusaur. Then you have team skills, which are essentially super moves which can be activated when your team has a similar diet or element, but only when all 3 members are on the field. I didn't really use these for the most part, as I like a variety of elements and Venusaurs in a team, so none of my main team Venusaurs were really all that compatible. I like to have a few different types of Venusaurs so I can have a strategy for any situation. It's a playstyle kind of thing. If you like similar Venusaurs, you get a super move. If you're like me, you pretty much have a strategy for any situation. Oh, and a way to tell if your Venusaurs can use a team skill is if they gleam when together on the team screen, so watch out for that. I know this all sounds really complicated when it's explained out like this, but it is really simple once you actually start playing the game. It all comes to you pretty naturally. And even if you are having trouble, the game won't just drop all of this onto you. It starts simple and it gets more complex as you go. That being said, I really wouldn't worry too much if you're having a hard time learning the systems, as this game really isn't all that challenging, save for a few fights here and there. As a general rule, just upgrade your Venusaurs when you get the chance and just make sure you're paying close attention to the fight. And you probably won't lose. This game isn't really all that hard till you get to the post game. That's when they drop the really hard fights onto you. But with all that being said, it's time for story, so skip here if you want to stay unspoiled if you decided to play this game for yourself. We start off as a kid heading off to Venusaur Island, dreaming to become a fossil fighter and battle our way to become the best. The captain of the boat we're riding on asks us a few questions including our name and what kind of dinosaur we like. Your answer of dinosaur actually decides what your character's color scheme is and a free fossil you'll get later. For the name, I went with Hunter, as that's the main character's name in the manga, and I actually read the first chapter of the manga for this video, and from what I can tell, it's a cute little retelling of the game where the main character has the ability to read his Spinex's thoughts, even as a fossil, and is very masterful with cleaning tools as he made a house for his Spinex fossil. Though the manga was never finished in English, here's a YouTube link to a playlist containing some of the manga chapters. Once Hunter reaches Venusaur Island, he gets set up with all the basics of a fossil fighter, including his own Venusaur, and he gets to meet some of the island's residents, including Dr. Dickens, who created the revival machine and is just the general science guy of the island. Though he is kooky, he's a great person to be around, but maybe not all that great to work for. Mr. Richmond is the owner of the island, who's a pretty jolly sort of person and he's very helpful, especially since our man Hunter here is always saving and keeping an eye on his granddaughter Rosie. Rosie is our little friend throughout the game. She's a bit spoiled, but for the most part is just a great character to have around. She seems to always get in some sort of trouble leaving Hunter to come save her, but that's part of what makes her so fun. Rosie's a great little character. To antagonize, I just love messing with Rosie. It's always so funny to see her problems multiply as the game goes on. And I love how everybody just takes the piss out of her whenever the chance is given. However, no matter what happens, she's a loyal companion to Hunter here and they have a fun little friendship. That sort of blossoms into some sort of puppy love, but at least from Rosie's end. Hunter is absolutely a DIN0S before H0ES kind of man, but nevertheless they have a fun dynamic. I say dynamic like Hunter here ever says anything. He does react to a few things throughout the story, but he's a silent protagonist. And even if he wasn't, I doubt he would be any more done with Rosie's shit. Bro, how did you even get to the moon? Do you want the long answer, or do you want to come up here and save me before my last 15 minutes of oxygen run out, Hunter? So how about we start with breakfast? Did you have your usual, or did you run out of truffle oil for your caviar?
Hunter.
There's also the Dig-a-Dig tribe, a group of people native to BEF0RE Island who seem to have a deeper relationship to the fossils and are the masters of busting it down. Also magic, apparently, as they use it to give Rosie a much better Diga dialect. Hunter's main goal is to become a master fighter, and to do this he has to win level up battles where he has to pass a fossil cleaning test, then complete a series of battles, ending off with him fighting the master of that level, which is usually whatever side character had a role during that chapter. Which I kinda like, as a lot of these characters are fun and it's interesting to see what kind of Venusaurs they use. I'm a sucker for seeing people's teams in monster taming games, as I think you can tell a lot about a person from what monsters they use. One of the big time characters you'll meet is Sorehead, a monster of a man that's pretty much the toughest guy on the island. Though he is kind of a jerk at first, but when you get to know him you realize he's a pretty respectable guy who just loves fossil battles. His fans are genuine jerks though, they never really get any better. As Hunter challenges his way through the ranks, he'll come across a bunch of villains, including the BB Bandits. Primarily the trio of Vivian, Snivels, and Rex. They're basically like Team Rocket for most of the game, causing trouble with Hunter having to stop them, and yeah, I can see you staring. Yes, according to the wiki, Rex is a dog. He's not like a short dog minotaur or something, he's just a dog that stands on two legs and can participate in fossil battles, and has an awkward amount of knowledge about volcanoes. Also, he has a British accent if his barks are translated. My theory is he's some kind of volcano spirit, but we just don't have enough information to really narrow down what he is or how he works. And nobody in game really cares enough to figure him out, so we'll just ignore his possible origins. Anyway, the trio is usually causing trouble for a bunch of different characters throughout the game, including a junk guy, a ghost pirate, and a beautiful woman. What happened to DIN0S before H0ES? That's Hunter's vibe, not mine. Besides, only a real man like me can handle this kind of woman like her. Watch and learn, kids. Back to the BB Bandits. Their deal is they're looking for these ancient idol statues. Now, for some reason, Hunter is awarded with these statues throughout the games for helping people. I guess because nobody else wants anything to do with these ancient, priceless artifacts. And you really can't let the evil guys win, so why not just give them to the 12-year-old? At the near half point of the game, the BB Bandits' head honcho Bulwart decides to just kidnap Rosie and will only let her go if Hunter gives up the idols. Which does sound like a decent plan, but I guess Bulwart decided at some point to just say to hell with the plan, and instead of a trade, a BB soldier was just sent out to attack Hunter, which goes about as well as you'd expect it to, honestly. Why didn't he at least send the trio to handle this? I mean, they wouldn't have won either, but, you know, they're stronger than some dime a dozen goon. Then, you know, Hunter realizes what's up and just steals the soldier's ship, which conveniently has the coordinates to Bulwart's secret base already inputted to the autopilot. So maybe this was part of his plan, or maybe his soldiers are just too stupid to remember the coordinates. It's about a 50-50 shot between those. Anyway, this leads to Hunter, the 10-year-old mind you, to completely decimate the BB's forces and save Rosie, throwing Bulwart's whole crew in jail and keeping the idols safe from him. So really great plan, buddy, really worth you giving up your powerful position as the island's main police chief. Wait, why didn't you just use your police chief position to just ask for the idols? Not really sure of your thought process here, if there was one at all. But you know, it was made clear that Bulwart isn't the main bad guy, you know. And the main bad guy actually ends up freeing Bulwart and his crew from jail, leading to Bulwark to decide to steal a very powerful Venusaur and then using that Venusaur to take over the island. So it's kind of like he's won, but then he decides to treat his underlings like crap, leading them to rebel and help Hunter get the other legendary Venusaur. That cancels out his Venusaur, and then both of the legendaries are turned to dust or something, and then he's just thrown back in jail. Also, the legendaries are pretty ugly, honestly. I'm really glad they got redesigned in the next game. Also, stop gaslighting me, game. That is not a T-Rex. You have the model for one, so why did you use that one? Anyway, back to the BB Bandits. It's, you know, they're entertaining, but it's probably for the best that they're only a stepping stone towards the real big bads, who actually end up helping you because, you know, they're sick of Bulwark too. You just don't appreciate anything, do you? Ah, man, it's hard to insult a guy whose name is already Bulwark. It's like kicking him while he's already down. But then again, you know, feeling sorry for him is probably already enough of an insult to him. Anyone else thinks he looks like a Dino Thunder Ranger? I think it's the white stripes that are throwing me off. There are some other villains in this game, you know, like this thief guy at the beginning of the game and Blambeau who appears in some side quests, but they're not really all that important, which, you know, is lucky for Hunter since Blambeau doesn't get enough screen time to just get the idea to aim that shotgun just a little bit lower and BOW! Shoot Hunter right in the face. What? What? Don't give me that look. They gave him a gun, alright? It's not my fault if I think about it, okay? Well, after taking back the island from Bulwark is when things really get going. Throughout the game, you meet and are spied on by this lady named Duna. After Hunter digs up the final idol, she reveals herself as a Dinarian. Pretty much aliens that use some sort of hologram or some kind of technology to become dinosaurs. I'm not really sure how it works, and the game doesn't really explain it, but the Dinarians are the ones who are the real villains of this game. They were the ones who hired Bulwark, and they are packing some serious technology, including some heat. Get it? Heat? Because they're in a volcano? Anyway, she uses her dino form and some Dinobots to try and fight Hunter, but she loses. And that's when she starts to develop a crush on Hunter. Anyway, she develops a crush on him after he saves her from being crushed to death. Look, there's a comment section for a reason. If they're bad, just let me know, okay? She later reappears to help Hunter revive the legendary Venusaur, then sometime after that, she has a conversation with Hunter about humans and Dinarians, and how they may not be so different after all. And before you ask, no, Hunter has no interest in Duna, because she's a hoe first, Dino second. After saving the island and earning another member to his harem that he really wishes he didn't have, Hunter wakes up to the Richmond building being attacked by the Dinarians, turning people into rats with their rat rays, including Rosie. This is a good look for her. Anyway, the Dinarians reveal that they're here for the idols that they refer to as the subcomps before they teleport away. But right before then, Ratsy jumps in and attacks! She fails, but she managed to grab a teleporter button with her little rat hands. Hunter and Diggins, being the Chads they are, decide to teleport to the Dinarians, but they decide they need disguises because I guess the champion mask isn't dinosaur enough? Alright. So Hunter then challenges Sorehead to an honorable, quotation marks, combat to obtain 2 of his Soar masks. Yeah, masks. Don't worry about Sorehead though, he keeps 30 dino suits on at all times to protect his identity, like the Chad he is. Hunter and Diggins then perform a potentially racist plan to put on Greenface and sneak onto the ship and steal back the idols. The plan almost succeeds, but then the two are interrupted by Duna's Dinarian betrayal. You see, the Dinarians once lost their homeworld, and about 3 million or so years ago, they came up with this plan to make a new one by planting life on a planet that would one day become Earth. And they set up the little idle chicken computer things to make sure that the life they planted would one day evolve into more Dinarians. The Dinarians then put themselves into a stone-like sleep to wait for their plan to work and, wake up to a new utopia of Dinarians. But at some point in time, the little chickens flew the coop from the Dinarian ship and landed on Earth, leading to the Dinarians waking up to an Earth that evolved humans instead of Dinarians. Now, the plan is to get back the tacky chicken idols to try and restart life on the planet and try the whole new Dinarian thing again. Duna is ordered to activate the idols, but she refuses, saying it's wrong to do this to the humans and the animals of the planet. But Dinel, the king of the Dinarians, isn't really having it, and at this point is when Hunter jumps in to defend Duna, leading to some more Dinobots being sicked on him. After besting the machines, Dinel is really not having it, and he decides to just press the button himself, leading us to believe we were too late to save our planet Earth. But that's when Diggins, being the Chad he is, manages to remove one of the idols, causing a chain reaction that ends up stopping the heinous experiment and sending Diggins and the idol back in time, far from Dinel's reach, with Duna and Hunter escaping back to Earth in the chaos. Once they get back to the Richmond building, they reason that the missing sub-comp idol chicken is probably still out there, and so they make a device that finds that the missing CIC is split into 5 pieces scattered around the island. Yay! Backtracking! Woo! Wow! Really wish it was just 2 pieces and we got to check out those 2 post-game areas instead. Anyway, lame backtracking later, Duna realizes we're still missing the core of the idol, so she asks Richmond if he knows somewhere on the island that their scans couldn't detect. Richmond tells us about the secret island that is actually an old Dinarian ship. It's where he and Diggins found the old stone sleep technology and reverse engineered it to make the fossil reviving system. Funny how Dinarians use the tech to preserve while humans use it to restore. Not really going anywhere with that thought, I just, was thinking that was kind of interesting. Duna and Hunter then reach the secret island, and this is where Duna starts to tell Hunter about the living weapon Ganache. Basically, he's a Galactus type figure who ate the Dinarians' homeworld, and the reason this ship crashed all those years ago is because they were studying a piece of it that went berserk and crashed the ship. Every molecule of that thing is a weapon. Anyway, we found Diggins' half-frozen corpse, yay! Apparently he made his way here after being flung back in time by the chicken, and like the Chad he is, he scienced up the ship and activated a stone sleep device. You really can't keep a king down, I tell ya. Then Raptin comes in, and wait, I haven't mentioned him yet. He's basically Duna, but he's a boy and he's loyal to Dinel. Anyway, he comes in and he starts talking some smack before he gets smacked by Hunter. Hunter, Duna, and a half-dead Diggins then get back to base, where they try to revive Diggins with the Fossa Oops. After fixing up the idol, we meet up with Richmond, who asks to hold Hunter's chicken, which Hunter happily obliges, but ha! It was actually Dinel in disguise, who then shoots Rosie in the face and then makes a break for it. Could have tackled him, Hunter, I'm just saying. The team then all comes together to decide that the 10-year-old should storm the spaceship, and he does, making it just in time before Dinel activates the extinction machine. However, this time around Dinel is sick of this crap, and he decides to handle Hunter himself. He ends up getting handled instead. But cool battle background though. Dinel realizes that maybe Duna was right, and then Hunter offers the Dinarians a home on Earth to live alongside the humans, and Dinel seems pretty for it, finally bringing us to a peaceful not, because Raptin is here and he isn't having any of this, so he presses the button and starts up the machine. But as the machine readies itself, the sub-chicks come to life, and explained what happened to them all those years ago. They said they were made to regulate life planted by the Dinarians on Earth all those years ago, to make sure everything went according to plan. But it turns out the Dinarians' plan was flawed pretty early on. The life they planted all those years ago all died out in only 100 to 1,000 years in, meaning all their efforts would have been for a waste, and they would have woken up to a barren world. However, the chickens noticed that the Earth itself soon started to create its own life, that would one day become all the humans, animals, plants, dinosaurs, etc. we know today. The idols wanted to leave Earth to her own devices, considering all the Dinarian stuff was long dead and would have failed no matter what. But the head cock of this chicken farm wanted to completely eradicate all life on Earth through the use of, get this, Ganache, which it tried to summon, but the chicks flew the coop before the rooster could signal Ganache. However, now that Raptin pushed the button and activated the machine with all the sub-idols installed, that means the main idol's last signal has been sent out. and Ganesh is now on his way here. Ah, shit. Obviously, DIN0S and the rest of the Dinarians are mortified to have made another planet a potential victim of Ganesh, and they team up with the humans to try and figure out a way to save humanity. At first, they try to come up with a way to use their spaceship to get humanity to safety, and even DIN0S and DIN0S volunteer to stay behind to allow 2 more humans to leave in their place. But as Richmond points out, there's too many humans to fit on that ship, and they don't have time to make the necessary adjustments. It all seems hopeless. Till the definition of king shit himself walks up and casually states he has a plan to kill Galactus. My motherfucking man! DIN0S says he used his time in the past to study the Ganesh sample on the ship, and he reasons that all you have to do to kill Ganesh is to simply destroy the 3 brains controlling the beast. Rosie asks if we have any weapons to take out the brains, which, yep, way ahead of you on this one, Rosie. Oh, I wish that's how it went down. But DIN0S says that we already have all the muscle we need. The Vivosaurs. And since Hunter is the best fighter, the 10-year-old once again readies himself to take on another challenge. But before he goes, Rosie and DIN0S volunteer to go with Hunter. You can only take one other person with you, so it's up to you who comes with. Starting off with the Rosie route, Rosie says she knew you'd pick her as DIN0S just stares off into the distance, probably a little sad. DIN0S hands Rosie a communications device and something else before the 2 of you are teleported. You and Rosie wake up wondering where you are, with Rosie commenting on how gross everything is around you, before DIN0S radios in to tell you that you're standing in Ganesh's mouth, as that's where his brains are located. After some dialogue, Hunter and Rosie can feel the brains on their way to them, as they both walk bravely towards them. After defeating the brains, Ganesh's body starts to detonate, with DIN0S radioing in to tell them that he can't teleport them out due to the amount of energy Ganesh is sending out. He then tells Rosie that the second device he gave her was a mini stone sleep device, and that they can use it to seal themselves away to survive the explosion, and then their friends will come pick them up later. Rosie tells Hunter to hold her hand tightly as they transform as the monster explodes, leaving them adrift in space together in stone sleep. After returning to Earth, there is some bad news. Hunter was able to be revived out of stone sleep just fine, but Rosie has ended up losing her memories. Hunter runs off to where his friend is, where he finds that it's true, and that Rosie has sadly lost all of her memories. But hope is not lost, however, as the Dig-a-Dig chief comes in and tells Hunter to use his vigorous and passionate hip shaking to perform the dance that will awaken Rosie. And of course this somehow works, and Rosie dig-a-digs up all her old memories. Okay, going to block Richmond's comment out of my memory. We then see a title sequence of all the characters, including the one where we see DIN0S trying to make friends with some humans, only for them to start simping for her. Yep, the apparently 14-year-old. Actually, she's 3,000,014. Dude, that is even worse. Stop it. Ugh. We then end on a cute moment where Hunter and Rosie talk about how proud she is of you, and how she'll be sticking by Hunter. It's a really cute scene, and it's a good way to wrap up their friendship. Thank you for not going the love route, by the way. I think that fiction is a bit too trigger-happy when it comes to romantic relationships, and when it comes to games with younger child demographics in mind, I think it's a good idea to help younger kids to understand that just being friends is okay. You can give Rosie a bit of puppy love here and there, or have DIN0S thank Hunter with a kiss, but I think it's better for these characters and for their demographic to just be happy with friendship. No need to tell kids to find their soulmate by 10, that's pretty ridiculous. If we were to choose DIN0S instead of Rosie, we would have had a similar but still different set of events. For instance, when you choose DIN0S, Rosie is seen getting a little pissed off in the background before letting it go and waving Hunter and DIN0S goodbye. We see DIN0S go ahead and join Hunter on the teleporter as she already has the mini stone sleep device and the communicator. When you arrive in Ganesh's mouth, she fills you in on the whole situation instead of DIN0S having to call in, showing that she was already informed about all this beforehand. Afterwards, DIN0S and Hunter walk bravely towards the 3 brains, And then after destroying the 3 brains, they still activate the stone sleep right before the explosion. They try to teleport out, but Ganesh is exposing too much energy just like before, and luckily Duna came prepared, telling Hunter to hold her hand as they turn to stone. After waking up back on Earth, Hunter is informed that there was a problem with Duna's stone sleep, causing her to still be sealed inside. The Dinarians are preparing to leave with Duna out into space to try and find a cure, but Hunter makes it just in time to see her. All hope seems lost till the Dig-a-Dig chief himself claims to have a way to save her. He explains through a vision given to him by the fossil god. The fossil god? The fossil god! Yeah, fossil god. I don't know, it was never explained before. It's never even come up before, but, you know, whatever. The vision told him that through vigorous and passionate hip shaking, that you can use the Earth's power to free her. And it works, and Duna is free, and ow, Dinal, not you too! The credits play, and instead of a scene with Duna, we now have a scene with Rosie going to talk to Hunter. But somehow she gains back her Diga dialect and her mouse form. Oh, much to her horror. Oh, this is a lot better than the We then end on a scene with Duna and Hunter. Here, Duna tells how because of Hunter, the Dinarians finally have a new home here on Earth, and she's very grateful. She claims to be Hunter's biggest fan, and she won't stay too far away from him. For similar reasons to the Rosie ending, I also like this one with Duna. Of course comes the question of which ending is the better one. Both Rosie and Duna are built up well throughout the game, and I like both of the final scenes, as of course, as Hunter's closest friend, Rosie would want to be the one to congratulate him, while Duna is forever grateful to Hunter for showing her the error of her ways and because he gave her people a new home. I like both, but I personally pick Duna. If I was gonna fight Ganesh myself, I'd probably want the person who's more informed of what I'm getting into. Plus, between her and Rosie, I get the feeling Duna is the better fighter, but that's impossible to really know. Also, the Rosie scene is hilarious, so that's an extra 10 bonus points to Duna right there. And that's pretty much the story of Fossil Fighters. I could probably go into the post-game, but honestly, it's your standard fare of rematches, allowing you to catch legendaries, etc. But I did mention the post-game areas. I'll talk about them a little later when we're outside of spoilers. I know that's odd, but I have my reasons. Also, watch out for that Dinarian fight. I didn't beat that one. Anyways, I really enjoy the story of Fossil Fighters. It's got this whole Saturday morning cartoon-like feel, with lots of heart and character. The plot really starts getting good around the introduction of the Dinarians, as they brought a much more serious tone to the story while still laughing with the player most of the time. And oh man, it's so cool how things are set up at the beginning. Things like looking for the sandal fossils for Knick-Knack and them turning out to be the ones Diggins lost in the past is really cool. And you wouldn't expect them to have a tie-in to the story because they're just as random as the other items Knick-Knack asks you to find. And then when the Dinarians realize that they just brought Doom onto another planet, and you can feel the dread in Dinel as he realizes he's just as bad as Ganesh, ooh, that's gut-wrenching. You know, it's kind of odd how the characters don't seem to care when the possibility of just being an accident of Dinarian science comes around. Would have liked to see them really question things before being put to ease after the idols tell them that they are natural from the Earth, and that the plan failed long before Earth's natural life came around. I guess it's really not a negative that they don't address that, it's just more of a missed opportunity. Though the story and the characters are great. Not a lot to complain about except maybe Bulwarts, but he plays his role well, I guess. I don't know, maybe more stuff for characters like Holt would have been cool, but like he doesn't really do anything all that important to the overall story, so I'd say he's fine where he is as an early game potential rival, but I guess they do give him something else to do, and if we're being honest, I like Holt, but I really wouldn't want him to take any screen time from more interesting characters like Rosie or Duna. It just kind of feels weird how he's introduced as a potential rival, and he ends up not doing a lot at the end of the day, you know? Alright, spoiler-free peeps ought to be back by now. Sorry that you had to miss half the video, but I respect you for sticking around. Anyway, now that you're back, it's time to talk about the 2 post-game areas. Wait. Don't worry. I know these count as spoilers, but I think it may be better for you to hear what I gotta say, because you might miss out on certain things, and this is my only real critique of the game. These 2 post-game areas should have been in the main game. They have all these cool exclusive Venusaurs that can only be found here and randomly at the shop, and I do mean random, so don't bet on using these guys before post-game. Which, you know, it is cool to have new Venusaurs in the post-game, but I really would have preferred these guys be around in the main adventure, instead of shoving them in the post-game, which is just kinda lame. Not to mention, having these 2 areas in the main game could have really brought up a fairly boring part of it. For the spoiler-free, during the game there is a backtracking segment that goes on a bit too long, and it really feels like it's just padding for time. So instead of revisiting 5 areas we've already seen before, I think it would have been a much better and interesting idea for the player to travel around to these 2 new locations instead, as it would have added some variety to an otherwise boring section. You could even incorporate the 2 story things going on in those areas, the Yeti and the Oasis, neither of which I got much footage of since I think I did something wrong in the wrong order or something, or maybe you're stuck to 1 post-game quest at a time between the 2. 20,000 for a seed, by the way, is way too much. And before you ask, no, I don't have any footage of the Yeti, because I couldn't get his quest to start, because I think he has a $20,000 item too, and you can't buy both at the same time, leaving one kind of out to dry for these sections. I have no idea. But even with all my issues, my overall view of this game stays the same. Which obviously, yeah, I love this game. I could go off listing things, but I feel like I've talked your ear off already with the positives, and not everything has to be formatted like a 5-paragraph essay. This game is fantastic. Just about everything is wonderful, including the music, which I didn't really talk about all that much, but let's be honest, this OST would be a 10 out of 10 even if it was just the single knick-knack theme. But the rest is all very well done. Maybe not everything is memorable, but the ones that are really stick with you, man. We got some cool tribal music with some nice percussion and chanting. Or how about this cool space theme for something I can't show spoiler-free people? And some big tough guy music that's loud and proud as it should be. Each one of the songs fits their settings fairly well, with a few outliers like the sunken ship not really feeling all that piratey. But hey, it's still got this neat sneaking around feel that kind of makes sense, as it seems everybody's sneaking around these places. Ah, man, I forgot the announcers. Meh, it'll be fine. Not really sure how they follow us around everywhere, but then again, annoying people pop out of the ground everywhere, so who knows. The announcers are entertaining, but maybe don't take their battle advice as it is. Add a pinch of salt and you'll be fine, though they can give a half-decent tip every once in a while. Oh right, I was doing an outro. TLDR, Fossil Fighters is a really fun monster-taming game. If you're interested in what you've seen thus far, I'd say definitely check it out. It's a wonderful experience and it's really fun. But watch out for those prices, they are way too expensive. Look for the cheapest you can find, or just pirate it. I didn't pirate it, I illegally dumped my copy, but I can't blame anyone for pirating at this point. Look at these prices, retro collecting is just a scam right now.